Love isn't easy. In fact, to me, love is very hard. You never know. After a bunch of bad relationships in my generation, it's led to not trusting people. After people relentlessly go on and either abuse you or use you or physically or mentally, really. It leads to the issues of how do I trust people again? What will happen if I put my trust in this person? If I put my love into this person? Will it be a good relationship? Will it have a good outcome? Or will I be broken inside and empty inside if this goes wrong or if it was all a lie? In this segment of these videos, I'm going to go over some of my hard relationships I've had in my life and why it's so hard for me to trust, but so easy it feels for me to love. I want to turn my game volume down a tad bit. There you go. My first relationship, more or less, wasn't really that. I dated a guy, more or less, who, for the sake of this, we'll just call them K, because I don't really want to expose people's names. It doesn't feel right or just, and I'm sure they wouldn't want me to. In the relationship with this guy, we would attempt to do what any young teenagers do. And yeah, that. We would actively try to get to it, doing it so much that the lines blurred between if it really was a relationship what the fuck is happening? The lines blurred between whether or not it was a relationship at all, or if we were just together because we wanted to experiment. That relationship ended when he basically said, yeah, we weren't together. I don't know what our feelings for each other really were. And since you don't know either, I guess we'll just move on to other people. That was pretty much exactly how that relationship ended. Why didn't they despawn? in this next time frame, I learned truly how cruel love can be if you lose someone. I started dating another guy in my life, which to all of you, you're like, okay, he's gay. What do we do now? Where I can calmly say I'm not, really. I've alternated between many titles throughout my life. Whether it be straight, what I thought I was originally, gay, what I thought I was next, pan, as to whether or not I should fall into this category or that category, bi, as to I didn't care what gender they were, I thought they were attractive, and to what I've landed on, which is pansexual anti-romanticist, where I only fall for that very, very specific person. And that sums me up perfectly. Why am I opening it so close to the chest? In my next relationship, I was with a guy who, we'll call him T. T was probably the closest I'd ever felt to anyone during a relationship. He was funny, he made me laugh, he made me smile. He would talk about things that just made me laugh. He would ask if I thought we'd ever get married, and he'd joke about using a triangle to make our ring because it's the strongest shape there is, which I honestly thought was one of the funniest lines I've heard in my life, but hey, it worked. So he was such a sweet guy, which is why it hurt so much. We would have arguments often because I didn't want to have sex, and it's still not something that I enjoy to this day. I just typically don't see the really the urge for it, I guess. Best way I can describe it. Where half of my generation is over in the corner saying, yeah, you want, let's go do that. I'm the 1% in the corner that's asking, why? Why do we need to? Why do you want to? In the arguments with him, it would often get to the point of, well, if we don't, you don't love me. To which I would concede. Those moments hurt a lot because I often found myself asking, I don't love him if I don't want to do it, do I? And I didn't really know what to do when it got to those moments either. Eventually, it went from, if you don't do this with me, you don't love me, to, if you don't do this with me, I will end myself. To which, when I eventually decided, I don't want to have sex with you anymore, please stop this, it makes me feel very uncomfortable. the answer would always be, okay. At that point, I thought, oh, well, I guess he just doesn't want to have sex with me anymore. That's a good thing, right? Right about then is when I started questioning more and more if I was doing everything correctly in love. Because a couple weeks after he started saying K as his response to me saying I didn't want to, he gave up on existing. Sorry, I don't have a better way of saying that. It's just, it hurts to say. It's not something you ever want to say about your partner. You don't want to wake up that one morning realizing that you won't ever wake up to them again. You won't ever wake up knowing they're out there and they're doing something. You don't ever want to not wake up to that feeling. Eventually it sets in that they're really gone. And when that feeling sets in, you want to go too. You say, well, if they're not here with me, then I shouldn't be here either, should I? And that feeling hurts deeper than almost anything else. After that relationship, I didn't date for a while, both out of fear that I was the reason that they weren't around anymore, and out of fear that something would go wrong again. The next time I dated, it was a girl, and we'll call her A. I figured, well, if guys are always going wrong, I'll try the other end of the spectrum there. So I did. I started having relations with women, and for the most part with A, it was going great. Until it wasn't. A was my first experience with somebody who had, for lack of a better term, kinks, and hers scared me. I didn't want to have sex, and this was a thing that a good portion of my friends knew about me at the time. We would often joke about the fact that all of them were off doing it with their partners, and I was sitting in the corner asking, why? Why do you want to? What's the urge to? I wasn't doing it as a joke after a while. I was genuinely asking because I didn't understand. I was asking because I wanted to know the reason why all of my friends were like this and I wasn't. For a point there, I decided to be that I was ace, and just didn't feel for sex like that. Not related to any fears or pains from growing up, just that I was the ace in all matters of that. And after a while, in high school, I started dating a girl by the name of A. A was wonderful and sweet and kind and creative, and a nursing student, which, if people know where I'm going with this, which you probably do, I'm not targeting all nursing students, just pretty much our generation of nursing students. You save people all day and then you party all night. And that was about the girls in my school. Summed up, they would train to save lives in the morning and then party all night. She was the reason that after a point I got into drinking and alcohol, which on one hand I learned that I have a very strong alcohol tolerance, which I did not know prior to that, and two, well, I started getting drunk, and that was a bad thing. During these times she'd get me drunk, she would often end our night at her house. Her mom wasn't home much due to her being a nurse, and her grandma was often either home or off doing her own thing, leaving it to just being the two of us. We would get home either from school or from a party, and she'd be like, "Hey, you're sober enough for a round, right?" I never was, and it always led to me trusting them less and less, until that trust was almost gone. Near the end of our relationship, I found out that she had a thing for blood play. Something that I said, I'll try it once, and if I don't like it, I won't do it again. I tried it once and was pretty much horrified by the result. I did not want to be cut and used just for somebody else's pleasure. In fact, it scared me horribly every time it happened. And yes, I said one time it happened. I only wanted it one time, but it kept happening. So when it inevitably did stop, it only stopped because the words, "I don't feel safe with you anymore," came out of my mouth. I want to say this as a little bit of an ending to this video. If you're in a relationship where you don't feel safe, or feel like your partner doesn't truly love you and is just asking for sex too much, trust your gut. Because I didn't any of those times, and it always led to the worst outcome. I'm not saying you should always trust your gut in relationships, but it works either way. And in those couple situations I had,